Unit 3, Flashback. We're going to deal with some different stuff. So we've got addition and subtraction of algebraic expressions. What we want to make sure that we're doing is we are paying attention to what is happening to each expression. As you can see in the first part, we have there's nothing out front of it, which is like a regular 1. So, if we have parentheses 3a plus 4b and there's nothing happening to it, well, it's just, it stays a 3a plus 4b. Likewise, in the second part, we have a positive parentheses 2a minus 5b. So that's like multiplying the whole thing by just 1 again. So 1 times 2a is just 2a, and then 1 times negative 5b is just negative 5b. Well, you have to understand that there are things that are like terms, right? We end up with, 3a and 2a makes 5a. And then we have 4b and negative 5b makes negative b. So always expand and then simplify your like terms. In the next example, we're looking at the same thing. So, what happens if we subtract? Well, that's like multiplying everything by a negative 1. Think of it that way, and sometimes it can make things easier for yourself. So, we have a positive 1 multiplying by our first parenthesis, or our first term. So we have 7x squared minus 3xy plus 2y squared. And then our second term, right, we've got a negative 1 here. Everything has to be multiplied by negative 1 that is in the parentheses right there. So we get 4x squared becomes negative 4x squared. And 5xy becomes negative 5xy. And negative 7y squared becomes a positive 7y squared. Well, now we have to simplify, put these all into like terms. We've got 7x squared here minus 4x squared makes 3x squared. We have negative 3xy and a negative 5xy makes negative 8xy. And then we have a 2y squared and a 7y squared makes a positive 9y squared. So that's how we handle if we're adding or subtracting these guys. For multiplication, the one thing that you need to make sure that you're doing is the distributive property. Okay, so with our first example, we have 3a times the quantity 4b plus 5c. So what you do there is the 3a must multiply by the 4b. And the 3a must multiply also by the 5c. Well, when we combine things together, when we're multiplying, right, we take all of our regular numbers, multiply those together. So we've got 3 and 4, that makes 12. We have a and b is just ab. We then have 3 and 5 makes 15, and a and c makes ac. Our second part here has 2 binomials, and so this is kind of where we learn how to do our FOIL technique, where you do first, outside, inside, last. There's another way that you could potentially do this. You can actually just distribute each term in your first part to the entire second part. So instead of thinking of it as FOIL, it may be useful for you to think of the following. Think of this as 7x times 2x plus 3, and then we have a minus 4 times 2x plus 3. It's the same thing as what we would do with FOIL, except we end up with something maybe a little simpler for some people to deal with. Again, when we multiply these out, we're going to get 7x times 2x makes 14x squared. We get 7x times 3 makes 21x. I'm going to do negative 4 times 2x makes negative 8x squared. Or negative 8x, excuse me. And then we get our negative 4 times 3 makes negative 12. And so we end up with 14x squared plus 13x minus 12. So that would be how we kind of deal with the multiplying of the two. So addition and subtraction of fractions. So remember, we worked on this before, and how we're working on adding fractions. Remember, you always do the same kind of method. We take the numerator of whatever's on the left, we multiply down by this term here. So we've got 3 times 2x minus 5. We then do whatever the sign is in the middle. Sorry, my pen is having a lot of problems writing right now. So we've got plus x plus 1 times 4. So we're going to say 4 times x plus 1. And this is divided by x plus 1 times 2x minus 5. Okay, and so the simplification from there can occur pretty quickly. You can see that this is going to become, there's going to be 6x and 8x is going to make 14x. We're going to have negative 15 and positive 4 should make negative 11. And then the denominator, I would recommend honestly just leaving it factored. It's not going to make a big difference otherwise. Numerator can always be simplified a little bit more, but if you have something factored, that's about as good as it can get. Now, if we were to do the same thing with subtraction, same process, right? 1 times 7x makes 7x. We subtract now instead of add, and we get 2 times 3x minus 4, and we divide by 3x minus 4 times 7x. Well, if we were to simplify this pretty quickly, we would end up with, so 7x minus 6x would give me x. I've got then a positive 8 when I simplify, and then you can keep the bottom factored. Again, it makes it easy for some operations later on.